Chapter 1: Why Kemono? An interview published to Animate Times in 2017 is the greatest source of information regarding the early production of Kemono Friends that's out there. They interview Kaji Hitoshi, the editor-in-chief of the Kadokawa Comics editorial department, and Fukuhara Yoshitada, the director and producer of Yaoyorozu Corporation, a company which will become incredibly important later. In the interview, Kaji admits that
the reason we started Kemono Friends was to create an IP using Yoshizaki Mine's illustrations and worldview. So the main purpose is not to make anime, games, or movies. To put it simply, the underlying idea was that we wanted to create an IP.
Now I think the term IP sounds worse because of cultural differences. Or maybe because of Google Translate, since this is in Japanese originally. But what he means by IP is simply franchise. Kadokawa had no goal to make a game or an anime. They wanted to make everything. After their first meeting and spitballing some ideas as to what the series might be, Yoshizaki left without having anyone agreed to an idea. That's when lightning struck. According to Kaji,
the inspiration behind the creation of Kemono Friends came from Yoshizaki's visit to the Singapore Zoo. When we decided to do a project with Yoshizaki, we initially requested a completely different character. We had various meetings. Yoshizaki-san drew many rough sketches, and we moved the project forward. Then one day he suddenly sent me an illustration saying, "I've got an idea." That was Serval. I answered, "That's great, let's go with this."
Apparently they had been spitballing an idea which ended up being very different from what would become Kemono Friends. In fact, even the idea that all the characters would be girls was originally different from its Kantai collection inspiration. Kaji was surprised by how different the Serval idea was from what they were originally discussing, partially because
at first, it was planned to have both men and women, but now only girls appear in Kemono Friends.
I find the claim that Kemono Friends ended up completely different from its original idea to be really questionable. This is because Kemono Friends brought Mine Yoshizaki back to his roots. One of his early art books, Mine Blue, compiles his drawings from 1994 to 2004, and one of the hallmarks of his art is anthropomorphized moe characters. He turns video game consoles into girls, he turns Sonic into a girl, he turns operating systems into girls. Actually, this one is kind of incredible. These characters are called OS tons, and there's a whole wiki worth of them. These anime girl operating system designs became very popular to create. So popular, in fact, that Microsoft finally acknowledged their existence and allowed them to be used in advertisements for Windows 7 and Windows 8 in Japan. However, some of Yoshizaki's work dates all the way back to a decade before that, in 1998, making him one of the original OS ton artists. This means that he wasn't just jumping onto a trend, he was setting a trend. Anyway, the point is, Yoshizaki was a fan of turning inhuman things into anime girls, and one of the drawings in his book is deeply fascinating. This piece was completed on December 18th, 2002, and it features Sergeant Keroro beside a very familiar-looking cat character. Her skirt with a pelt pattern, her white blouse, her long pelt-inspired gloves. These are all dead ringers for what would become the design template of Feline Friends. Moreover, her hair pattern is nearly identical to what would become Bengal Tiger, although curiously, Bengal Tiger would go on to have a different outfit. Whether this is just a coincidence, or whether Yoshizaki perhaps got tired of the unsuccessful planning meetings and decided to draw inspiration from his older works, this art is an incredible piece of Kemono Friends history. The precursor for Serval's design was laying in Yoshizaki's collection 13 years before Kemono Friends was even created. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. At this point, all Kadokawa had was an idea. What if animals were anime girls? They can pat themselves on the back all they want, but ultimately, what's next? The hardest part about making a series is, well, making it. Everyone has ideas, but that's a whole different beast from actually creating a multimedia empire. To that end, they had a 3-point plan. First games, then books, and finally television.
First, they would make a video game, then use Kadokawa's wide influence to distribute a manga, and finally, have a TV show made. After all, they didn't just want to make a game or a manga, they wanted to make everything. And the first part of that everything would come on March 16th, 2015, when they partnered with publishing company Nexon to release the first pillar of their series, a mobile game simply called Kemono Friends. Now here's the thing, not to get ahead of myself, but this game did not do well. It's not even a spoiler at this point. If you knew about Kemono Friends before mid-2017, that's probably what you knew it for, being the anime tie-in for a game that had already been cancelled. The mobile game only lasted a year and a half before having its server shut down on December 14th, 2016, 1 month before the anime they wanted to make even aired on television. Because of this, the game is actually considered lost media, and while we know about the gameplay and story, no fully playable version of this game exists out in the wild. I find this video by Gabor995 to be pretty funny because the description just calls itself a random video of an Android game, and that was true when it was released in June of 2016, but you can tell from the comments that this is more of a historical document than an app demonstration at this point. The game has you fighting waves of enemies, and you do that by selecting skills which your friends use to attack Cellians as they walk forward. What are friends and Cellians? Well, let me get to the story and we'll find out. The game starts with the player waking up without memories in a place called Japari Park, a combination of the words Japan and Safari. I'd like to pay extra attention to the park logo here. This is the hiragana character for no, with ears added on. This logo comes from the Japanese spelling of the series name, and it actually requires a basic knowledge of Japanese alphabets in order to understand it. In short, Japan has 3 alphabets: hiragana, katakana, and kanji, with kanji roughly being shared with Chinese. A big benefit of hiragana is that it is phonetic. This kanji is pronounced kemono, but you couldn't figure that out from just looking at it. Its hiragana spelling is this, which can be broken down into the sounds ke, mo, and no. That means that this kanji and these hiragana are 2 ways to spell one word, which share the same pronunciation and meaning. That meaning being beast or animal. When looking up the word kemono, you might find this different spelling. This is katakana. While it is also pronounced kemono and refers to animals, it refers to things which have animal-like qualities. Basically, this means furries and this means animals, with this being an alternate phonetic way to spell this. The logo for Japari Park is this hiragana spelling, with the last character, no, given cat ears. Now back to the game. After waking up in the park, the player character meets a guide named Mirai, someone who becomes far cooler as a lore character in the future, as well as the serval she takes care of. Serval is a friend, an animal which has been hit by an object from space called Sandstar and been turned into this human-like form. You know what word I like? Chemonoplasm. In a later art book, it was revealed that the more human-like aspects of friends are biological, and the more animal-like objects are made up of something called chemonoplasm. Anyway, we don't have time to talk about chemonoplasm, because Japari Park is currently being invaded by aliens. It's weird that the player character is even inside the park since it shut down when the Cellians, a race of multicolored blobby aliens, started invading the park. There's also this mysterious serval-like blob who will later be named Selval there. Now I admit that I'm relying on wikis to get information on this game because information on it is very hard to come by. As the game continues, you run into Caracol, a big floppa who had her food, called Japari buns, stolen. She's another character who will become much more important later. You meet her in Chapter 1 and then meet Crested Ibis, the national bird of Japan, in Chapter 2. The game continues in a chapter-based format where you travel to different parts of Japari Park, meet new friends going through Cellian-related troubles, and help them out before they join your group. The friends are all adept fighters with abilities somewhat inspired by the animals they're based on, and as the game continues, you track down the Selval you saw in the prologue. In Chapter 2, Crested Ibis struggles because nobody likes her singing except for Cellians, who are attracted to it. And you also meet the Wiseman Owl duo, who give her medicine to fix her voice. But rather than it helping, it attracts more Cellians and causes Crested Ibis to realize that her voice attracts Cellians not because it's good, but because it's so bad that they're trying to kill her so she stops singing. Then you go to the desert and learn that the oasis has dried up, and Thompson's gazelle is trying to find the cause of it to prove herself to her friend, Arabian Oryx. The team defeats the Celian that drank up the oasis, and the desert friends join your team. Then the group reaches the waterfront, and Serval loses her voice after fighting a Celian. It's because of the rumored Gao Gao disease, which is named after the Japanese onomatopoeia for growling or roaring. Thanks, Kirby Wiki. Your team finally captures Serval and asks if she's responsible for the Gao Gao disease, but she has no idea what you're talking about. It's okay though, because you track down the one spreading the disease, a Celian in the shape of a snail. Then Silver Fox shows up with these adorable Dr. Insano glasses and gives you a vaccine which cures Serval and Crested Ibis, who was also affected. Silver Fox is knocked out by the Celians, who are against vaccinations, and you cough on them so they die before taking Silver Fox to the snowy mountain area to help her recover. Silver Fox wakes up but has no memories, and Capybara, the hot spring specialist, tells them to take a bath because the hot spring will help restore her memories. Mirai decides to finally tell you the incredibly important information that Celians can copy forms, which explains Serval, and steals something called Sparkle, which is basically a cute way of saying the abstract concept of good things. Think like hope, or that feeling you get when you recommend Kemono Friends to someone and they actually give it a shot. This is how Serval copied Serval, by stealing her sparkle, or her goodness. Also, Serval joins the team. You find a hot spring to take a bath in, and Silver Fox's memories are restored. Then Serval's mind is taken over by the Celian Queen. What, you didn't know I had a queen? Have you ever seen Aliens? She summons the giant Celian which you fight, and then you travel to the sky area because everyone wants a break from all this alien craziness. The group meets Northern Goshank and decides to race her for fun, but then a Celian appears and steals her sparkle of self-confidence, and damn girl, same. The group is joined by Fennec and Araisan, the Araiguma, the Japanese name for common raccoon, who have been chasing Serval for a while, and they tell the group that Serval lost, quote, an important sparkle. These characters will also become important. Northern Goshank comes up with a plan to defeat the Celians, but since her confidence is gone, she's too self-conscious to tell anyone. The group convinces her that she has value, and she shares her plan so you can fight back against it. After all that, you go to the Gokoku, or 5 Grains region, and meet Margay, who is trying to produce a film but her script was stolen. You find the Celian who stole it, and you defeat them. You get the script back, although it ends up being badly damaged. But your team decides to film it anyway to cheer up Margay. As someone who has spent far too much time in the film industry myself, I know that making a movie which isn't Margay's exact creative vision would only make her feel worse. But I'm not there to tell them that, so they film it anyway. They make a pirate movie, and Margay actually loves their work. Serval gets to play the role of the pirate captain, a role she loves so much that when the Celian Queen tries to take over her mind again, she manages to defy her orders. Serval is promptly absorbed by a giant Celian, and when you defeat it, she is thrown off to a faraway region. That's when Fennec informs Serval that she's special, and her quote-unquote important sparkle was a power called Chemo Harmony, which can heal friends when enough friends and humans are joyful near each other. But it appears to be missing now. It was the special sparkle stolen by Serval. Are you still with me? Hopefully. The group travels onward and they meet 2 gods, these from Shin Megami Tensei, who tell them to keep going to Central Park where the Queen is located. You get to ride on the Japari bus to an island with powerful black Celians on it, and meet up with Okinawan Rail and Okinawan Habu, who were sent to help you. Then the gods appear again and give you an amulet with purifying salt which can be used to kill Serval, since she is a Celian and thus a potential threat, although the group wants to avoid killing her. With everyone's help, you soon reach Central Park. It's a giant amusement park which the friends are initially excited to play in, but then they realize that since the sparkle has been removed from it by the Celians, they can't enjoy it anymore. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a break from all this because this is a lot of information all at once, and as a palate cleanser, I want to analyze Sparkle a little bit. Part 1. The Shinto religion in Japan. Shintoism is the oldest and one of the most historically important religions in Japan. It's nature-focused, which means that rather than attending Mass every week, you would only really go to a shrine and pray or give offerings if you have a specific reason to. For example, there are gods of the harvest and a god of fire, and if you want to, for example, bless your farm with a good harvesting season, then you'd visit a shrine and give an offering to the harvest god to bless yourself with a good season. Shintoism is very important to Japan, so much so that the Emperor of Japan is believed to be the descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu. The reason the Emperor has power is because his lineage hails directly from the kami, or gods, of Shintoism. I think Shintoism is incredibly interesting since the goal of it is kind of the opposite of organized religion. Japan has historically been subject to so many wars and natural disasters that Shintoism was largely seen as a way of making things easier for people. People only go to shrines when they want to, and because of that, it exists not as a way of life so much as a way to calm people. A believer of Shintoism can say, "I went to a shrine and did my best. The rest is up to the gods." The gods who helped the friends before the team went to Central Park in the game are Shinto figures. More specifically, Shiza. They're based on lion dogs from China, and they act as sort of guardians at Shinto shrines on the island of Okinawa in Japan. This is why Okinawan Rail and Okinawan Habu were sent to help you. They're all Okinawan staples. And here's the thing. I don't think it's a coincidence that Shiza, guardians of the Shinto religion, are the ones to help you when Serval Sparkle is taken away. Because while Sparkle being the abstract concept of good things might be a weird concept in America, the concept is very at home in Japan. Part 2! Seimei and Kegare. Okay, let me ask you this. Have you played Persona 2? The plot of Persona 2 Eternal Punishment revolves around Kegare, which an essay published by the University of Mississippi describes as, quote, a Japanese concept that refers to conditions of spiritual contamination, uncleanliness, or pollution. In short, Kegare is negative energy. In Persona 2, doing evil things like calling a hitman to kill someone, or smoking, or drunkenly insulting your best friend are all sources of Kegare. In the real world, Kegare can be caused by even more things, including death, disease, and assault. While not entirely accurate, Kegare could be compared to bad karma. If you do bad things, you contaminate yourself with negative energy, which should be purified through rituals, one of which being called hare. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. Shintoism also features the opposite of Kegare, something called Seimei Shin. It's often related to the purifying ritual of hare, and it's defined as, quote, purity and cheerfulness of heart. In other words, Seimei Shin is sparkle. Sparkle is also the abstract concept of positive energy and purity. It's also something which can be taken away by Kegare. When the snail Celian attacked Serval and Crested Ibis, they lost their ability to talk, something which is specifically called a disease. This means that Crested Ibis, whose joy in life is singing, lost her biggest source of positivity because she was assaulted and given a disease by beings who are designed to corrupt. Her purity was stolen by an unclean force. Her spirit was contaminated. The same goes for Serval, who had the incredible ability of Chemo Harmony, and who lost that power when her positive energy was taken away. When Serval, a being made up of Serval's contaminated energy, was allowed to enjoy herself on the film set, she gained the ability to reject the Queen, who is the embodiment of that contaminated energy. In other words, the cheerfulness of the friends managed to purify her heart. Similarly, Northern Gawshank, which is actually pronounced Northern Gawshok, contrary to a popular belief, lost her self-confidence when her positive energy was taken away, and it was restored when the friends came together to cheer her up. And perhaps most important of all, salt. The hare ritual which cleanses people of their kegare begins by using water and purifying salt to cleanse the hands and face. Purifying salt, the very same thing which the Shiza, two Shinto guardians, give to Serval that will kill Serval if used. Serval lost her positive energy and thus her ability to heal by coming into contact with disease-causing creatures, and Serval was the result, a creature which can be destroyed by the purifying tool provided by godlike Shinto creatures. The point of all this? From the beginning, Kemono Friends established that friends are entirely pure and upbeat. and that the villains are those who would steal that purity. This purity will be expanded upon in later projects, ultimately resulting in the idea of Tanoshi, which will go on to define the series even today. Oh yeah, the game. We were near the end of it. The friends are at Central Park and start fighting the Cellians there. They manage to break through and find the Cellian Queen, who Mirai believes to be the negative energy version of Professor Kako, a friend of hers who worked at the park. Selval was also there, and the Queen starts extracting her sparkle. Remember, Selval is a normal Cellian who stole Serval's special sparkle and took on her appearance. The Queen wants that sparkle for herself so she can use her own warped version of Chemo Harmony to give more power to the Cellians. Meanwhile, the friends outside manage to defeat every Cellian at the amusement park, and since the park is pure and happy again, they start having fun on the rides. This generates a lot of positive energy. When the Cellian Queen finally takes Selval's sparkle for herself and uses Cell Harmony, the positive energy created by the friends outside prevents the effects of Cell Harmony from spreading too far, only powering up the Queen and giving her a boost that makes her into the powerful final boss you would expect a game to have.
Kemono Friends の力を見せつけちゃうんだからね。これがケモハーモニー。もっとすごいフレンズの力ってやつよ。いくよー。
The group finally manages to defeat the Queen, and the Cellian threat is averted for the time being. The player becomes the new park director as thanks for their heroism, and the game ends with Serval and them enjoying a meal of Japari puns together. They remember all of the good times they had, and they look forward to a great future full of new adventures and even more friends. I honestly find this game to be really interesting, but exclusively in retrospect. I cannot imagine playing this game when the servers were still online. The game is adorable, but due to the fact that it was a mobile game, it looks cheap. The story is not interesting unless you analyze its deeper themes, basically amounting to a road trip movie designed to meet friends. Keeping in mind that this was the only piece of Kemono Friends media when it was released in 2015, what would draw me to it, at a time when Splatoon, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Undertale were all coming out? Or if you only count mobile games, we had Angry Birds 2, Jurassic World the game,
Minions Paradise.
What would draw me to Kemono Friends? The answer is nothing. And the big reason why this game is important nowadays is specifically because of certain characters and themes introduced in it, which will be greatly expanded on in the future. Concepts like Sparkle and Chemo Harmony are particularly important to the series, but they will also not be referenced again for several years. This game is the primordial soup of the series, which introduces its unique ingredients and flavors. But you might not want to look at the dish yet, because the chef is about to get fired. Part of this is due to the nature of the project. More importantly than it being a mobile game, it was a video game. Video games tend to have antagonists and combat, and they lend themselves to action. This action-based approach puts Kemono Friends at a disadvantage from the start. It makes sense for a series like Kontai Collection. You're playing as battleships, so of course you want to play an action game. But Kemono Friends is cute and upbeat and innocent. So making a game in a genre which practically necessitates drama and violence simply doesn't cut it. The dramatic scenes are too grand for innocent friends to go through, and the fun, relaxed scenes like the race are too out of place during a terrifying alien invasion. This isn't to say that a video game couldn't work, but if the series wanted to establish itself as a positive, pleasant experience rather than an action game where you go around fighting monsters, then something like a slice-of-life approach would be far more effective. Perhaps luckily, Kadokawa quickly came to the same conclusion. So the game didn't do great. What's next? Well, the good news is that the game was only the first part of a 3-part plan. Part 2 would rest on the shoulders of a woman named Fly. Fly is the pen name of a manga artist born in the Hyogo prefecture of Japan. It's in the Kansai region of Japan, and if you don't know where that is, it's Johto from Pokemon. Right beside the Kanto region and everything. Fly graduated from the Art and Design Department of Fukuchiyama Shukutoku High School in 2012, and only 1 year later, she won the Silver Prize at the Dengeki Illustration Awards, which is a competition for new and up-and-coming artists hosted by, of course, Kadokawa. Her art is really beautiful. The way she draws her characters is almost dreamlike. I'd compare it to the way that characters are depicted when they're supposed to look attractive in a movie. You know, with the slow motion and exaggerated walking. Her art feels like that, somehow managing to make the characters look both attractive and beautiful, while also being innocent and wholesome. That's probably why Kadokawa selected her to be the lead artist for the second pillar of their Kemono Friends franchise. The first chapter would be published in July 2015, roughly 4 months after the game came out. It was called Kemono Friends, Welcome to Japari Park, or in Japanese, Yokoso Japari Park. It was, a book that existed. I feel like they absolutely chose the correct artist, because Fly's illustrations are hands down the best part of this book. This is her first major work, and she was only 21 when she started working on it. But if you had told me that she was a seasoned expert in the industry, I would believe you. While I absolutely adore Mine Yoshizaki's soft and adorable art, I think Fly's art might be the best these characters have ever looked. There is this enchanting delicateness in her work, which highlights how fragile these characters are. They don't look like strong or intelligent fighters, but they also don't look like characters to fawn over either. They have a childlike purity which emphasizes the era when this book takes place. Unlike the game, which took place during a Celian outbreak, this series takes place earlier in the timeline, when the park was still open for business. The friends are living their daily lives and facing simple, sweet, menial struggles, like Tsuchinoko being a loner and Crested Ibis wanting to sing for an audience. Unlike most of the series, which focuses on Serval, the main character of Welcome to Japari Park is arguably Ezo Red Fox. Technically, the books focus on a variety of characters including Nana, a human who finally gets to do her dream job of working with friends at Japari Park. But the friend she gets assigned to, as well as the friend most prominent on the cover, is Ezo Red Fox. Ezo is a spoiled friend who wants to eat and play video games all day, and Nana gets frustrated with her, making her dream job into a nightmare. I'm not super enthused by this book. I meant it when I said Fly's illustrations are incredible, but the rest is boring. I can tell you why right now. The problem is that this manga has no bite. It goes too far in the opposite direction from the game. It's completely innocent, and the slice of life stories have no weight to them because there's never any real stakes. It's positive, and the characters are cheery to be around, but ultimately, you don't feel connected to them because they don't have any meaningful struggles to overcome. As you'll see soon, the greatest asset to Kemono Friends, and the reason why it works so well, is because it places pure and kind characters in an unkind world. Even the mobile game did this, with the friends being a source of playful kindness in a park infested with aliens trying to take away that kindness. There is no light without dark, no good without evil, as Laurel K. Hamilton once wrote, and this book series has no evil in it. It only lasted for 20 chapters, and the Japanese Amazon listing for Volume 1 has 240 ratings, and Volume 2 has nearly half as many ratings. So I doubt this series did great, but the reviews are admittedly good, so people did seem to enjoy their time reading it. I can't say I think this series is worth very much, besides the art. And after less than 2 years of publication, from July 2015 to March 2017, the series was cancelled. It's a shame they couldn't get the balance right. Too much drama doesn't fit the characters, and as we've just seen, too little drama means there's nothing for readers to latch onto. They only had one shot left, and it's safe to assume that if they didn't strike a perfect balance this time, the series would be done for. I can only imagine what must have been going on in the offices of Kadokawa. Well, crud, they were probably thinking. This series is a total bust, and we've basically flushed a lot of time and money down the toilet. Now you might ask, what about the anime? To which I'm sure they would have responded, oh, you mean the anime we outsourced to a cheap 3D production company, which uses literal VTuber technology to make their shows? Yeah, Kadokawa had killed their franchise. They had 3 chances to make it work, and after blowing 2 chances and 1 month before the anime even released, the Kemono Friends mobile game closed its servers. Articles popped up reporting that the game had failed, so now a tie-in anime was being released without the original work even existing anymore. Sometimes it's good to know when to give up, and after 2 strikes, Kemono Friends was about to hit its third and be out of the game. If we're being honest, Kemono Friends was basically dead. Chapter 2: How Kemono Friends became the #1 anime in Japan.